Hello and welcome back to the eighth video in this series. In this video, we're going to talk about transitions and transition words, when to use them, how to create them, when not to use them. So here's our example prompt again. We won't be going back to this too much in this particular video, but I just wanted to include it just in case. So what is a transition? Transitions are very important to the flow of the paper. Without them, new ideas usually feel abrupt or out of place. They usually are found, at the beginnings and ends of paragraphs. Sometimes transitions feel really formulaic. This is something that can be easily remedied, but is often a low priority revision step. So in relation to that, oftentimes, this is something you won't even work on with clients because you will be working on other things with their revision process, or this is not something that they've identified as a concern. However, in the event that this is a concern, we wanted to go through it a little bit. Using the first person in transitions tends to generally be frowned upon in an academic setting. So, avoiding phrases like, in this paper I will discuss, or the next idea I will present is, those phrases in general should be avoided by your clients. An exception to this rule would be if the student is writing about their personal experience, often through things like reflections or, reading checks, something like that. So that would look something like, through this internship I learned, or after reading I found. Once again, this will also happen a lot in things like personal statements, which we see often here. So here are some common transition phrases that I just wanted to offer sort of alternatives for. So instead of using in conclusion, students could use things like overall or to review or to conclude. So those sentences may look like, to conclude, comma, The Hunger Games is a dystopian novel that unfortunately reflects many realities of historical dictatorships, or something along those lines. Another one I wanted to go through is similarly. This is just a personal thing, but I think that that word tends to be a little overused in transitions. Um, so you could use a parallel between, comparably, or concurrently, just to give the paper a little bit more elevation. Finally, I would highly recommend against using the first, second, third sort of paragraph structure. So, like your first body paragraph or their first body paragraph saying, the first idea is da da da, second idea da da da. That tends to sound really, really choppy in the long run. So instead, they could use words like subsequently or following this, so and so forth. So while transition words have their place, it is generally a better practice to connect ideas and transition using the ideas rather than a single word or phrase. So abrupt transitions may benefit from finding common ground between points. So instead of your student relying on a single word to flow between the two paragraphs, they really should make sure that the ideas of those two paragraphs connect really well. And depending on the prompt or the type of writing they're doing, that may be difficult. They may be trying to cover a wide variety of ideas. So that is something that you, as the sort of outside point of view, could definitely help with. Transitions will vary by paper format, and they may not be needed in cases where the subject or scope is very narrow. So, sort of the opposite of that hypothetical I just posed in papers or writings that are very short or very, very specific, there may not be any sort of need to really transition because the ideas just naturally connect. Most effective transitions will enhance the flow of the paper without feeling stilted or out of place. They will help the reader orient and signal a shift of ideas or tone, and they won't just be used for filler. So, once again, I think many students are tempted to use transitions to fill space, to hit a page count or a word count, but this will actually often detract from the quality of their writing in the long run. And that is all I have about transitions. So, thank you so much for listening.